Hi everyone, welcome to Remarkable. This video is going to be about linking to the question. A lot of the essays I mark, they'll do a really good job of talking about the topic but not answering the specific question that's asked. If you go to any university mark scheme, you'll see there'll be a section on answering the question. It might be called the response to the question, keeping on topic. Students aren't always very good at this. So let me give you an example. We might set our first year students a question about globalization and we'll ask them a specific question. So we'll say, to what extent is globalization a force for good in the world? Now, a lot of our first year students, when they just come to university, will write a good essay, and they'll write a good essay about globalization. They'll explain what it is, they'll explain how it works, but what they won't do is answer that specific question. They won't tell me why or whether they think it's a force for good or not in the world. And because they haven't done that, they're not answering the question. So I came across this challenge as an undergrad all the time, and I fell afoul of it as well. What I've got on the screen in front of me now is an essay I wrote in my third year about climate change. So people will never take responsibility for climate change. Governments must force them to. Discuss. How do you link to that question? Because there's no clear answer, and there's no clear response you can give there. But you still have to do it. The rules are the same. When you're writing an essay, we want to see you using the prompt to shape your answer. I've taken that paragraph and I've stuck it in another Word document here. I like to see links to the question when I'm marking very regularly. I like the reader to remind me as the marker that they are still responding to the specific question that they've been set. And I've put green highlights in the question itself, so words from the question that can be used to link back to the question. So people, responsibility, climate change, governments, force. The sort of main points to think about in the question. So these are the words I think I can use to respond and delve deeper into that question and keep that laser-like focus on the question. So this is not the best essay that I ever wrote, but I was trying really hard here to make those links to the questions. And as usual, I have beneath it, an example where I've actually rewritten it to make it better, which I'll upload onto my website. So, as you can see in the first sentence, I've actually used words from the question to make a point. So some individuals currently take responsibility for climate change and often gain a personal satisfaction from environmental action, right? So the first opening sentence I've used is taken words from the question and put them into that sentence. Now that's quite a common way of reminding the marker that you're on focus. You can see again that I've put demonstrating that some people take action through their own volition, reminding the reader and the marker that I'm still talking specifically about the question. I'm not just writing about climate change and individual responsibility, I'm writing about how some people do actually take action. Then I go on to say, however, this remains a small proportion of citizens and recent estimates place individual usage at 51% of total consumption. So that's me kind of explaining and unpacking the meat of the issue in the paragraph. I then have another link to the question. The majority of people do not currently take enough or any responsibility for climate change through their own efforts. Again, reminding the marker that I'm still responding to that issue. Then I've used the word down here, forcing. Remember that was in the question at the top here, governments must force. I'm directly dealing with that word. Forcing is a strong word to use. A government to force its citizens to do things suggests very authoritarian overtones. So by taking that word, forcing, and picking it apart a bit, saying, what does the question mean by that? I'm really beginning to hone specifically in on the question. Again, it'd be very hard for a marker to say that I'm not focused on the question here. See, engendering responsibility, so taking words from the question again. Current policy approaches in the UK do not force people to take environmental action, but instead encourage voluntary adjustments to individual lifestyles by providing information and financial incentives. A long sentence, but if you've watched my video on cutting words, you would know how to improve that. As we go down, we can see there's a bit more explanation about some of these strategies, how you can use this idea of nudging to make people make better choices, but it's not forcing, it's nudging. And I talk about this Act on CO2 campaign, encouraging individuals to reduce CO2 emissions. Again, that's what the question's asking. It's me using words or similar words to what's in the question to remind the marker that I'm still responding to that specific issue. And as you can see at the very end of the paragraph, I have a last link to the question. The last thing the reader's left with at the end of that paragraph is that idea of being forced to take responsibility for climate change. Actually, the government doesn't do that. It encourages people. So I like this tactic because it's a very direct way of reminding the reader that you're on task. So that's linking to the question. Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you next time for a different video on improving writing.